BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor and take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby.
Welcome to the BTB Project, designed to empower listeners to identify their why and to live their best lives no matter the circumstances. My name is Kollman Gearhart, a former athlete and motivational coach. I've had the opportunity to inspire thousands through my story and help accomplish what they are built to be. You'll be encouraged by each and every episode, and let's get into it.
Yeah, when I blow up, I'ma soar high like Peter Pan. In real life, be living out my dreams. If I'm waking up, it's in a foreign land.
Have you ever had one of those moments where you're standing in one of the most beautiful places you've ever seen, and you just have a moment that takes your breath away? And it makes me think back to a moment that I had recently traveling with my son and my wife for one of his track races out in California, and being able to go back to one of my favorite universities that I've ever seen in the United States, and that's Pepperdine. And there's this awesome spot on the campus where you literally can stand on top of one of the highest points of the campus, and the campus sits cliffside to the ocean. It was one of those moments where I felt like I was free. And here we are this time of year, at the time of recording, celebrating Independence Day, the freedom of our country in the United States. I want to dive today into this BTB short, discussing what it truly means to live free and untethered. Part of my own journey that has been incredibly impactful was coming across a podcast that I listened to that Tony Robbins was on, and he had a gentleman by the name of Michael Singer on the podcast talking about his book, Living Untethered, Beyond the Human Predicament. As I listened to Michael's podcast, it really opened my eyes on insights into achieving inner peace and freedom, and the often limitations that we put on ourselves in our mind. And Michael does a tremendous job on how to separate your mind from the actions that you take in your life. And we're going to walk through today some of the key learnings and moments, both from the book and the podcast. And I figured, since it's that time of year to live in those moments of freedom, to live in those moments of just sheer awe and how awesome life can be, that we tackle it and learn a little bit from Michael's words. One thing I want to make very clear is the type of untetheredness and freedom that I'm talking about to live in life can sometimes be very challenging. There are so many psychological warfare moments that we experience as human beings because most of us are going to be critical thinkers. We're going to think about the worst case scenario in life. We're going to think about the best case scenario. We're going to think about everything in between. And we don't want it to be a situation that obviously turns into overthinking. And that's one of the big points that Michael drives home, is we have to be able, in this first step, to understand that the mind is a separate entity to our actions, to our body, and what we can control. And this is observation of his thoughts, but Singer emphasizes the importance of recognizing that we are not our thoughts. And by observing our thoughts as an external entity, we can detach from the mental chatter that goes on. I always think of it as having the blue angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. And there's always decisions that are made throughout the day, hundreds of thousands of decisions, whether it's direct or indirect. And those two voices are always talking to us. I think it's just important that being able to have a consciousness of what the chatter is and what the chatter isn't is huge. Singer brings up in his book something that I think is compelling, which is this witness consciousness. And it's a concept of the witness is central, where one learns to observe experiences without getting emotionally entangled. And that's going to foster a sense of inner peace. I remember actually practicing this most recently with making some really tough decisions on my career. And career is always interesting for me because this podcast, as it continues to develop and be a spark plug for my life, I ultimately see myself having this type of communication set as an opportunity or an avenue for a career. But with that said, here I am doing multiple things, including full-time employment and sales. And I had to make a difficult decision based off of some of the things that I was seeing, that it was best for me to move on or change directions in my career and in my employment. And those moments are fascinating because you think about all the chatter in your head of what are the ramifications of leaving this opportunity or the pros and cons. As I think through that and walk through it, but separate the chatter of all of the insecurities of the situation into what are the possibilities from it? Why am I making this decision? What else is out there? And ultimately, it comes down to doing what's best for my family. Sometimes that chatter, the voices inside of our head, if we replay that narrative in our head enough, we actually start believing it. It doesn't allow us to be risk takers. It doesn't allow us to optimize what we truly can become in life because it's debilitating us. It's holding us back. And understanding that the mind is a separate entity, I'm telling you right now, whether it's a career decision or your health and wellness or how you're doing in school or how you're orchestrating your life with your family, being able to unconsciously understand the mind plays tricks and games on you all the time. Singer does a great job of making sure that we're aware of that, because part of that initial understanding leads to the second topic, which is letting go of inner resistance. You got to be able to have this letting go of inner resistance and acceptance of what you can and can't control. Singer's book teaches that suffering comes from resisting reality, but accepting of what it is without trying to change or resist it leads to that true freedom. This idea of non-attachment. Man, there are so many times in our life where we feel obligated to stay attached to something. For a little bit with my personal situation, it felt like that you want to be loyal, that you want to do the right thing and have longevity in certain career decisions that you make. But ultimately, you got to look at every situation that you have in your life from a point of view of unattaching from it and taking the emotion out of it. And as you're letting go of these attachments and outcomes, or material possessions and even relationships that aren't good for you, obviously, we're talking friendships or dating, anything outside of marriage, that it's allowing you to have a harmonious existence, the ability to take care of you first. Because if you're not able to take care of yourself and have that alignment, how can you take care of somebody else. And sometimes that resistance that we put on ourselves, Singer makes it very clear that it's those types of skeletons in the closet, the things that truly hold you back are always going to put the ceiling on what you're going to be able to give in a friendship or relationship. So let's make sure that we're recognizing those inner resistances and that we're releasing ourselves, untethering ourselves from those moments to truly live free. Being also, too, and I've brought this up a lot on the podcast, but living in the present moment. When we're thinking about those scattered thoughts in our minds, we can sometimes live way too far in the past or live way too far in the future. And we miss the moment that's right in front of us. This moment right now that you and I are having on a podcast with whatever you're doing. Maybe you're on a run or a jog. Maybe you're sitting in silence and trying to have that breakaway from the day in and day out of life. But are you currently present? Being able to embrace the present moment fully is critical in your life. And that's what Michael Singer discusses is how living in the now will prevent the mind from dwelling on past regrets or future anxieties. What is your mindfulness practice? There are tons of techniques out there. One that I've been getting into recently, meditation, something that I've always looked at as this is a little bit crazy for me, but I had a good friend of mine who I had on the podcast, Amy Smith, and she introduced me to some prayer beads and being able to have those beads in my hands and feel the texture of the beads as I'm sitting in silence and working on my breath, working on being able to be present is a way that I'm able to detach from the past, detach from the future, and be my whole authentic true self in the moment. And tapping into those practices on a consistent basis is what allows the noise in our life. Remember, we control the volume switch. Are you turning that noise down? Or are you turning that noise up, depending on what's best for you in your life? And through the present moment, one thing that I've recognized and realized that leads to that free and untethered life is dealing with emotional pain. What emotions do you have as a human being? We've all seen a lot, but being able to recognize that those emotional pain moments are real and they've happened. And instead of avoiding or suppressing those emotions, Michael Singer encourages expressing them fully and allowing them to pass through you because being able to get them out into the open and into the world, that's where true healing begins to happen. And this emotional release that occurs when you're able to have that presence of bringing pain to the surface, you're being able to confront and release these deep-seated emotions that one can achieve emotional freedom and clarity by letting it out. Find that safe place to talk to somebody about it. It could be a brother, sister, a friend, a wife, a husband, a coworker, whatever it may be. Let it out into the open. And as you're able to release those emotional pain moments, that's always going to be step one to living that untethered and free life. And through that, there's inner energy and consciousness. When you're able to be in the present and deal with the emotional pain, now you're entering this state of awareness that you wouldn't be able to have without removing those barriers. And that's our energy flow. It's interesting how the man upstairs worked it out with designing human beings because it's very specific to making sure that our head and our heart were always above one another. And having that understanding means that The energy that we have that flows from our head into our heart, into our body is an energy source. That energy source has to come from somewhere. Singer explains the importance of maintaining this free flow energy within the body. And there are blockages, pain, frustration, sadness that can cause the lack of flow in the body because of these suppressed emotions. And it can create a physical outcome of discomfort and disease. Being able to have this achievement of higher states of consciousness allows your body to not necessarily become immune, but be more susceptible to health and happiness because of your ability to allow energy to flow through you. You hear often in Christian faith that we're empty vessels, and it's our faith that works through us that allows God's redemption to truly happen. But in order for things to flow, there can't be blockages. So think about some of those deep rooted blockages in your life. How is that affecting your inner energy and consciousness? How is that affecting your ability to be present? How is that affecting your ability to truly live free? Because without recognizing that, you're not going to be able to have that energy move through you. There's always going to be something preventing it. Next singer talks about the nature of the self, right? So true self versus ego. I spent a lot of time talking about alter ego. I had an alter ego myself, big teddy bear, and the differentiators between true self and ego is really important for you to understand when you're living an untethered life. So, what is the source, again, of our personal stories and struggles and true self? Which is the internal observer untouched by external circumstances? Having that moment of understanding who you are, understanding beneath the surface all of the nuances that create the moments that we have in life, understanding through all of that, what is that self-realization that you have? The journey towards self-realization involves peeling away layers. Think of it like an onion. You're peeling back all of these layers, which is our ego. And that's how you're connecting to your true self. That's the source of limitless peace and happiness in your life. Are you willing to peel back those layers? Are you willing to have the ability to self-assess, to get those layers away, to stop manipulating you, to live your true potential? And this doesn't happen overnight. Singer makes it very clear that you have to take practical steps in your daily living to remove these blockages and to truly live in freedom and your true self. It's consistent practice, regular meditation and mindfulness practices, being able to have that support system around you, being able to detach from the mental chatter in your mind and having those self-assessment moments that allow you to have inner peace. As each day has its challenges, applying principles to the challenge is what's going to help you maintain the equilibrium of life. Notice how I said principles. It's not about adding some cheesy slogan or this positive self-talk. All of those things are fantastic. But what are the true principles that you're putting into place? What are the things that you're not going to allow to be negotiables in your life that will help you overcome these challenges each and every day? Because life is always going to have its ups and downs. And being able to make a plan in a principle promise is what will allow you to maximize those days in your life. For me, it's making that commitment to that strength that's greater than myself, being able to lay all of the insecurities and self doubt and that chatter, laying that at the foot of the cross and letting my Lord and Savior work through me to do things that I never would be capable of doing on my own. And being able to have those practical steps in a principle promise through the Bible, the written word, that's what allows strength to work through me. That's what allows me to have hope. And I encourage you as a listener to reach into that same book, because that, I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth and the key to life, to a lot of difficult circumstances that keep us tethered, that keep us in the shackles of these blockages that Michael talks about, and prevents us from truly living that true, free, fulfilled life. As we are able to recognize these practical steps, now you're on the path to liberation. And through this spiritual growth, you're having this continuous inner work, you're having this self reflection. And as you're growing on your spiritual journey, the liberation from that, from the human element, is unprecedented. Now, all of a sudden, when you're standing on a cliffside of a school like Pepperdine University, when you're standing on that hilltop next to an American flag, seeing the ocean and smelling the air and seeing the sunshine and the birds and the clouds, your heightened awareness, because of the lack of limiting beliefs, the lack of insecurity, the lack of noises, you're on this point of liberation. I never want to imagine living a life where I've lived a healthy, happy, for the most part, life, but never truly fulfilled. I don't want to be that guy when I'm 90, 100, 110 years old on my deathbed, knowing that I didn't give everything I had, that I didn't let go of some of these blockages. Having the ability to recognize, knowing who I am, knowing who I've been designed to be, and how to help others, recognizing that deep connection allows you to live in the present moment, to live free, to live of joy, to live your truth. That's the last piece that I want to share with you today, is an untethered life in Michael's just profound book. His teachings are practical and easy to understand. But living untethered, it's going to serve as a guide for you as a listener seeking to transcend the limitations of your mind and live a life of greater freedom, peace, and joy. By embracing these learning moments, you can learn to embark on this amazing journey towards fulfilling your purpose, your meaning, your built to be journey in your life. You're going to be able to fulfill that by living untethered. So as you're taking this all in and thinking about the purpose behind the message today, how are you going to take an untethered life and living free and take the actions to live it out? What are you going to do to impact other people's lives? What are you going to do to maximize this weight that's been lifted off of your shoulders? To not live in the noises of the mind, but live in the truth of what your identity is, who you are, and who you're built to be. Listen. If this BTB short on living untethered and living a free life, diving into Michael Singer's book and the podcast I recently listened to, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the BTB Project. Better yet, share this message with a family member, friend, or colleague and tell them why this message resonated with you. As you're living free, as you're removing these blockages in your life, go after it. It's contagious. Share the good news. Put yourself around people that will continue to push you to stay in that alignment. Let's continue to help each other and live this mission of the BTB Project. As always, I'm proud of each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.